pandemic, some of these NHS workers were on the front line, but they now face the sack if they don't get vaccinated.
I was a student nurse during the pandemic, working on a respiratory ward back in February, March 2020, and I got COVID without sufficient PPE, and now I'm being told that I'm a threat. So it's a lot to process.
There are protests across the UK. Health workers in London told us they're here because they believe in people making their own individual informed choice.
There are risks of vaccines and there are risks of COVID, so everyone should make their individual choice to decide what they want to do. I've got kids, I don't want them growing up in a world where they are being forced to do anything. They say it's choice, but it's not, because the staff are basically getting coerced into having these jabs, or they get sacked. We can't afford to lose the staff. The science isn't really there. There's a lot of people that can still pass it on even if they've had the vaccine. I've had COVID and been double jabbed, I just can't see any reason to be doing this.
The mandates are set to come into force from April the 1st, which means staff would need to have their first jab by February the 3rd.
If 70,000 plus NHS employers get the sack in 2 weeks, how are there going to be enough people to care for the people that we've been caring for the past 30 years? It's unethical, it's not fair.
And I have actually looked after a lady that has had an adverse reaction to the COVID vaccination, so that also did influence my decision making early on. But I've also had COVID twice with minimal symptoms, and I did the right thing and I stayed at home and I protected the NHS and my colleagues, and I came back and worked just as hard as I've always done when I was better.
I don't think it's unreasonable for us to wait until the trial is finished for it to be a mandatory vaccine. So I totally agree with mandatory vaccines, but just with this one in particular, I just don't think it's unreasonable to wait.
At Regent's Park, several times, drivers sounded their horns in support. Health workers then joined the crowds outside the BBC before heading to Trafalgar Square. In a visual display, they put their uniforms on the steps. This worker, who laid out her uniform just moments before, couldn't hold back her tears. Emotions likely felt by many in the same position. Jane Werrell, NTD News, London.